Chapter 191, Silver Moon Mercenary Group. Not much could be said about the Silver Moon Mercenary Group besides the fact that its leader, Silver Moon, possessed the skill to buff the stats of everyone in his team within a short time frame. Brother Assist confidently proclaimed to his fellow mercenaries that he would be able to appraise Silver Moon and find out his equipment's characteristics in today's match. How many points will I earn if I can find that out? Brother Assist asked Sword Demon. You want points for that? Sword Demon expressed his surprise, before realizing that it was indeed quite difficult for Brother Assist to earn contribution points. He technically had the weakest job class as a knight out of everyone in the group, and given their capabilities, Sword Demon, Royal God Call, and the rest had no need for his blessing to fight the average players. In fact, a priest was also unnecessary to them. Thankfully, Brother Assist was not shameless enough to give himself points for his good looks and talent like young Master Han. His request was not out of shamelessness as well, so Sword Demon easily agreed to it. I'll award you 1 point for it. This made Brother Assist feel satisfied. Gufei popped beside Sword Demon with a swish. So how many points will I get for slaying Silver Moon? That would depend on the timing, the setting, and the judgment that can impact the entire course of the PvP. You see, Sword Demon began breaking everything down to the smallest detail. Young Master Han sympathetically gazed at Gufei, as if saying, "You've asked a question you shouldn't have asked." Gufei was truly in a lot of pain because Sword Demon was using plenty of gaming jargons in his explanation, so he hurriedly teleported himself over to the other side of the room once 1 minute was up. Young Master Han stood up. I'm taking my leave first. I'll meet you guys inside the changing room. Everyone was baffled. Ever since this room at Ray's Bar became Young Master's Elite's unofficial meeting place, young Master Han would spend the most time in this room and would exit it last out of everyone. Even when he had something on, he would still drag their meeting out. It was as if he could not survive each day without drinking as much as he could. And yet, this drinking addict was actually the first one to excuse himself today. Why was it so different today? Everyone stared at him in astonishment. Young Master Han glanced at Gufei sideways. I'll throw up if I see Miles teleport about one more time. He then lifted a glass of liquor and left the room. Do we need to cover our faces for this match against Silver Moon? Brother Assist suddenly asked. We indeed have to take the necessary precautions against that shameless man. I of course am not afraid of him and am just worried for you guys, Gufei replied matter-of-factly. All the individuals present in the room felt that Gufei was trampling on their dignity as gaming experts, so they each expressed their willingness to engage in a death match in broad daylight. When this episode ended, Brother Assist asked him, from your tone, you seem to be harboring some sort of resentment toward Silver Moon. If my memory serves me right, it's you who slew him to clear off your park points before clashing with his guild and subsequently attracting the attention of everyone in Y City. It was highly likely that he would still be having a great time in Y City without your meddling. Based on this, he should be the one holding a deep grudge toward you, so why does it seem to go both ways now? Do I seem to resent or hate him? I just can't stand that guy's personality, that's all. Gufei waved his hand dismissively. What about his personality? The men asked. Realizing his fellow mercenaries' obliviousness to Silver Moon's bad deed inside Yunjuan City's underground prison, he hurriedly told them about it. As expected, War Without Wounds and Royal God Call leapt to their feet once Gufei was done speaking. War Without Wounds slapped the table. That guy's too much. Poor vast lushness. Where is she now? After going through all that, I bet she must be yearning for a broad-chested man to comfort her wounded soul at the moment. Are you perhaps talking about yourself? Gufei gave him a side-ray glance. I wouldn't mind offering my chest to her if that's what she needs, War Without Wounds shamelessly replied. As for Royal God Call, he was currently waging an intense battle inside him. The issue here was that he already had Grape in his heart. While Vast Lushness was prettier, Grape had actually shown interest toward him before, so he felt that it would be a waste to let go just like that. It's so hard to choose. Royal God Call sighed to himself as he gulped down the drink before him. His unrestrained drinking style left everyone in a daze, and at first glance, it was as if young Master Han had somehow ended up possessing the body of Royal God Call. The online gaming community is becoming more and more polluted. In fact, Shameless people now outnumber the humble players, Sword Demon commented emphatically. I strongly agree, Gufei concurred as he moved to another part of the room with a swish. Ugh, I feel like puking. Turns out that seeing you use blink when drunk really causes dizziness and nausea. No, no, no. I'll take my leave now, too. Royal God Call dizzily stood up. It's about time, so let's just leave together, Brother Assist said after looking at the time. Thus, everyone in the room stood up and headed outside. Lifting the curtain and stepping outside for not more than a few steps, the five met someone familiar who was also leaving the bar. When Gufei and that person's eyes met, he froze up while the latter warmly rushed over to greet him. Oh, Miles bro. How coincidental for us to meet each other here. How coincidental, indeed. Seeing how warmly the man greeted him, Gufei was forced to toss this amiable reply back. Brother Assist and the others froze up. This was because the man before them was none other than Silver Moon. Gufei was just expressing his disdain for the man moments ago, so why was Silver Moon greeting him so warmly right now? He even knew his name. Just what sort of encounter did these two have? The thing was that Gufei had omitted some parts of the whole story in order to keep things short, so the other five was only made aware of the part where Silver Moon had despicably put all the blame on vast lushness and abandoned her to the enemies. The part about how they had briefly bonded through a gambling session inside the prison was skipped entirely by Gufei. After exchanging formal greetings, Silver Moon's gaze swept over the other members of Young Master's elite and asked, "Are these your companions? Are you guys participating in the mercenary PvP tournament as well?" Gufei cheerfully nodded his head. Yes. In fact, we coincidentally have you as our opponent for this round. His words caused Silver Moon to be momentarily stunned. Everyone here is from Young Master's Elite, the group that won against a higher number of enemies through Grand Kiting. That's us, Gufei confirmed. But there should be 6 of you, right? Silver Moon did a head count of them. MHM. Our idiotic leader has left first, Gufei replied. This idiotic leader nickname seemed to have won the approval of Royal God Call and the rest, as they vigorously nodded their heads at Gufei's words. Oh, I suppose our next meeting will be inside the PvP arena. Silver Moon extended his hand toward Gufei. See you there, Gufei said but did not proffer his hand. Silver Moon's expression became somewhat stiff, yet he managed to maintain the smile on his lips. I'll be taking my leave first, then. He then retracted his hand and left the bar with his companions. How do you guys know each other? Brother Assist questioned Gufei on their way to the Hall of Mercenaries. Gufei had been wearing a disguise in Y City, so any locals of that city would not have known his identity as 27,149. Gufei could only share the whole incident inside the prison to them. That means that he doesn't know that you're 27,149, right? Brother Assist asked. Originally, he didn't. But if he has any brains at all, he should be able to connect the dots by now, Gufei answered. Sword Demon nodded his head. I've met him before. We've even exchanged blows with each other. He should be able to recognize me at the very least. I've shot an arrow at him, too. Royal God Call raised his hand. That's a good boy. Gufei patted his head. Scram. Royal God Call raised his hand to strike Gufei, yet the latter had already moved to a new spot with a swish. Arriving by the Hall of Mercenaries, the 5 quickly entered the teleportation array to head toward the changing room, but young Master Han was nowhere to be seen inside. That guy is not gonna bail out from the match, right? Some of them wondered aloud. Just as they were about to send young Master Han a message with only 5 minutes left of the waiting time, a flash of white light produced the person in question. 2 bottles of liquor were in his hands. Young Master Han promptly checked the opposing side's PvP participants upon entering the changing room. There are only 10 of them, he exclaimed. Seems like they are wary of our Grand Kiting strategy, which may be the reason why there are so few of them. Brother Assist offered his opinion. Avoiding the enemies, dragging out the time, causing the huge number of enemies to hesitate on attacking in case they end up hitting their own comrades. These are what defines Grand Kiting. Silver Moon's fighting style, meanwhile, emphasizes on boosting his teammates to clash with the others head-on, so of course they would be wary of our Grand Kiting strategy. Even if Silver Moon could correctly deduce that Grand Kiting is actually a ruse to fool the others into fighting us with only a small number of people, he would still have no choice but to do just that, young Master Han said. Why is that? Well, if I am to be honest, his method of buffing all his teammates to take out the enemies is actually more suited as a surprise attack that he should only execute once or twice. But since he has been relying on that one tactic for all his matches, every player in Parallel World must be aware of his army of men clad in golden light by now. Only an idiot would face them head on, so of course he would be changing his tactic this time by fighting us with only 10 of them, young Master Han said. According to my sources, all the mercenary groups he has fought thus far were defeated by him because they faced him head on, Brother Assist said. That just means that those groups are all idiots. Young Master Han did not address his remark. His statement was so arrogant, that the others were left speechless. The grand kiting strategy is also a kind of surprise attack that we should only use if there is a need for it, since repeated usage will only cause the others to develop a counter for it in advance. Silver Moon must be aware of this, yet he chose to play along, pretending that he is afraid of us by sending only a total of 10 people for our upcoming match. It may seem like he is wary of our grand kiting strategy, but it's all mind games on his part, and he is actually trying to goad us into fighting him head on. I think this must be how his group managed to defeat their past foes with the same tactic every time. By purposefully flaunting some kind of weakness to those foes, he managed to dupe them into thinking that it was okay to face his group head on, ignoring the fact that he possesses an insane skill that could boost the capabilities of his entire group. Young Master Han said. So what you're saying is that Silver Moon already knows your intention, but he still pretends to fall for the trick in order for us to fight them head on. Some were left reeling with all the deceptions going on in this one match. That's correct, young Master Han nodded his head. I have something to say. Sword Demon usually did not speak much, so everyone promptly shifted their gazes on him. Sword Demon, for his part, only looked at young Master Han. Aren't you just thinking too much? You've also given the matter so much thought last time in Y City, but it turned out that Silver Moon's thinking wasn't as convoluted as that. Can you perhaps think this through with simplicity? What's there to think about? Let's just directly kill them all. It's only 10 men, Gu Fei grumbled. See, that's how people typically fall for their tricks. Young Master Han pointed at Gu Fei. That's different, Sword Demon shook his head, because Miles truly has the ability to slay them all. Chapter 192, Guardian's Miles. Even you couldn't insta-kill Silver Moon back then, right? These mercenaries vividly recalled their adventure in Y City, as it was their grandest affair in Parallel World thus far. Gu Fei nodded his head. Yup. I couldn't. So what do we do to prevent him from unleashing that powerful skill this time? Royal God Call asked. Gu Fei glanced at him. We'll just have to slash him a second time. Royal God Call had no words for his simplistic answer. The system's 10-second countdown ended, and the teleportation array began to glow in white light, enveloping all those who stood within and transporting them to their respective PvP arenas. There were only a total of 16 players participating in the match between Young Master's Elite Mercenary Group and Silver Moon Mercenary Group, so the map that they were given was relatively small. Let's head toward a vantage point and scope out the situation. Young Master Han employed his usual PvP maneuver. As they climbed up a small hill near their group's spawn point, they saw a few figures also heading up a hill on the other side of the map. How many men are there? Young Master Han pointed the opposite hill with his liquor bottle to Royal God Call. Royal God Call placed a hand to his forehead and peered. Exactly 10 men. He then shouted to Sword Demon, points, please. Gu Fei found this quite strange. He could barely make out the people on the other hill from his position, and his eyesight had been pretty good since young. Was it possible that Royal God Call had better eyesight than him? Inquiring about the matter, Gu Fei was told that Royal God Call could now use the level 40 passive skill, Eagle Eye, after the latter had advanced to a sharpshooter. The skill allowed its user to possess eyesight on par with that of an eagle, so it was pretty popular to myopic archers. Ever since they got Eagle Eye, their myopia became a thing of the past and they could even see objects from afar in-game. These myopic archers with low self-esteem issues could now stand tall and walk proudly as they gazed on the horizon. Royal, keep your eyes on them. Observe their movement for us, Young Master Han said. Royal God Call voiced his assent as he proudly monitored the enemies from afar. While waiting for the enemies to make a move, all of them were doing something on their own to ease the burden. Royal God Call continued to strain his eyes to observe the movement of the enemies until he became teary-eyed. Young Master Han opened a new bottle of liquor and threw it on the ground. Once he chugged it all down, Gu Fei managed to perform up to the 5th set of moves of a swordplay while he waited. War Without Wounds privately chatted up the 8th lady on his friends list, and Sword Demon and Brother Assist were meticulously discussing the things listed in the scoring booklet. Even after all that, the enemies had hardly made any movement atop the opposite hill. Young Master Han put a hand inside his dimensional pocket to get another bottle of liquor, only to discover that he was out of it. He promptly stood up and cursed, "This sucks." As everyone turned to look at him, he exclaimed indignantly, "Is this how they actually forced all their past opponents to engage them directly? By turning everyone restless through the long wait?" Everyone thought that sentiment made sense. With both sides fighting, surely one group would have to initiate the assault if the other group chose to not make a move. If both sides choose not to fight, what will be the system's decision? Royal God Call asked Brother Assist. Overtime will occur, and it will continue on until one side gains a point, Brother Assist replied. Most players who participate in the mercenary PvP tournament usually have the guild versus guild tournament to participate into afterward. These guys seem to be taking advantage of that fact to force their previous opponents into attacking them first. Once their opponents realized that they were running late for the next match, they would of course take the initiative to attack, and this would of course lead to a head-on clash in the end. Young Master Han broke down the matter at hand. Are you perhaps overthinking things again? Sword Demon did not even lift his head from the booklet. Definitely overthinking. Royal God Call nodded his head. They have made a move. Oh? All stopped whatever they were doing to gaze once more on that distant hill. When they saw no movement from the opposite hill, they instead focused their eyes on Royal God Call, who heaved a long sigh. Looks like they got bored just like us after sitting for so long, so they stretched their bodies for a bit. Everyone became quiet for a moment. Let's just go to them. These experts had long lost interest on passing the time by doing random stuff and decided to head straight to Silvermoon to conclude this match. Charge. Young Master Han raised his hand. Seriously? Everyone had actually thought that he would calmly weigh the odds and analyze their current situation. I'm out of booze, Young Master Han explained. Let's end this quick so I can go buy some more. You drinking addict! The others exclaimed as they descended the hill and headed to the opposite side of the map. Royal God Call continued to keep an eye on the enemies along the way, but the opposite side still seemed to be doing nothing. Stop! Young Master Han ordered when they were halfway there. What? They asked. Miles, Royal, Sword Demon, get close to the enemies. Wounds, Assist, stay with me to bring up the rear, Young Master Han said. What do you mean? They all could not fathom Young Master Han's thoughts, especially Royal God Call, who was afraid of being sent on a suicide mission again. Once Silvermoon uses his skill, his party's speed will likely increase. If things pan out that way, the three of us with slow movement speed will find it hard to get away, Young Master Han explained. Thus, the six acted according to Young Master Han's orders. Young Master Han, War Without Wounds, and Brother Assist found somewhere to observe from afar, while Gu Fei, Royal God Call, and Sword Demon proceeded forward to close in on the enemies. Even when they reached the foot of the hill, the 10 men on top of it still remained motionless. Royal God Call suddenly exclaimed, Eagle Eye is so cool. I can even see the inside of their noses. Can you guys do the same? Royal God Call boasted to Sword Demon and Gu Fei. Shoot an arrow and see how they'll react. The enemies were still not making any movement despite them already entering the archer Royal God Call's attack range. Royal God Call knocked an arrow and drew his bowstring, readying himself to fire off an arrow. That was when the 10 men finally made a move. They suddenly gathered together and the 3 warriors standing in front each took out a large shield that they held before them. The 3 men hunched their backs, and the entire Silvermoon mercenary group became protected by the shields. Those are guardians. Sword Demon said. Guardian was the other job class that a warrior could advance into, and choosing this route would grant a warrior high HP and defense. At level 40, a guardian could learn a new passive skill called Defense Mastery. This skill not only increased the player's HP but also provided extra defense through the Shield Mastery skill. Shields were also considered as weapons in Parallel World. While the attack power they provided was really low, they had the highest defensive properties. And even if the other job classes tried using shields as weapons, they would still have to fulfill the required shield aptitude before they could obtain the maximum defense provided by shields. When it came to the ability to fully utilize the prowess of a shield, Guardians from level 40 onward were the only ones capable of doing it through the aptitude boost provided by their passive Defense Mastery skill. Royal Godcall fired off his arrow at this point, and it pierced through the air with the same force he had always been employing in his attacks. A loud clink was heard when the arrow made contact with the surface of a shield. The arrow did not even move the shield an inch and just feebly dropped to the ground upon contact. When young Master Han saw this scene unfold from a distance, a slight smile formed on his lips. Guardians. So that's how it is. I have a hunch that they would have a method to prevent archers from shooting them down from afar. And we have just found out exactly how it is possible. If that's case, we can only send a mage forward. While young Master Han was mumbling this, Gu Fei and his two companions were still trying various ways to attack their opponents. Royal Godcall swiftly headed to the other side of the hill to sneak in an attack on the enemy's flank. The 10 men seemed to have included this into their estimation, as they immediately adjusted their position in accordance to Royal Godcall's movement. No matter how fast his movement speed was, he would never be faster than people turning their bodies around. Royal Godcall continued to see the 3 large shields no matter where he positioned himself, not even seeing a strand of stray hair. "You're only wasting your time," young Master Han snorted upon seeing Royal Godcall's action. Royal Godcall grew depressed at having wasted his effort. Returning to Gu Fei's side, he patted him on the shoulder. "It's your turn now." "You're done? Can't you do a volley shot like yesterday?" Gu Fei gestured with his hand and drew a curved line in the air. He and Svelte Dancer had personally experienced being peppered by the archer's volley of arrows during yesterday's match with traversing 4 seas, and he was certain that Royal Godcall had shot out quite a few arrows like that as well. "Well, none of my current skills can cover that kind of range, so firing an arrow like that is only possible through basic attacks. And I can't do much damage to a warrior by just firing a regular arrow. Besides, that kind of aerial assault is only effective when there are tons of archers together like yesterday. Since I'm the only archer here right now, that method can't be used to deal with them," Royal Godcall explained himself. "Just watch me, then." Gu Fei took out his sword. Dashing a few steps forward, the 3 warriors quickly entered his spell-casting range. Descending Wheel of Flames. Descend. When the enemy warriors heard Gu Fei's command, they immediately raised the shields over their heads. Gu Fei and gang were shocked. "What are they doing? Shields only have physical defense. There's no way they can block a magic attack." Sword Demon exclaimed, stunned. Following Sword Demon's exclamation, Gu Fei's flame wheel ignited in the air and began its descent. The 3 watched this happen in real time. Just as the spell was about to land on the raised shields, a transparent glimmer shone on the surface of the shields and the flame wheel was easily extinguished. Despite the 10 men under the shields remaining still, their expression showed surprise. Evidently, Gu Fei's high spell damage had still managed to injure some of them. "They're not dead? Do their shields have magic defense?" The faraway young Master Han expressed his surprise. "That's a new piece of vital information. I'll head over to appraise those shields." Brother Assist was about to make his way over after saying this, but young Master Han pulled him back. "No, leave that to Sword Demon. Equipment that has physical defense as well as magic defense is extremely rare." How frightening that these 2 traits can actually be found on shields. Shields are the equipment that possesses the highest amount of defense. After all, Brother Assist began his analysis on those shields of their enemies. So this is the real reason why there are only 10 of them. Young Master Han realized, "I previously thought that since their tactic relies on direct and frontal assault, wouldn't it be more effective for them to overcome us through numerical superiority by employing all 40 members to camp atop that hill and wait for us to arrive? To think that it's actually because of this other trump card that they have. They should have only 3 of those shields, and they can only cover 10 players at most. Archers and mages won't be able to cause significant damage as long as those 3 guardians are around. At this rate, we will surely be forced to engage them in close combat. Well, if Miles and Royal perform their attacks from 2 different directions at the same time, those 3 guardians will probably be forced into choosing just one side to defend against, leaving them defenseless on the other direction. Just as Brother Assist was saying this, Gufei and Royal Godcall had already proceeded to employ it. The former let loose a spell while the latter fired off an arrow. In the end, Royal Godcall was left in tears. This was because the enemies had disregarded his arrow and chose to focus solely on defending against Gufei's spell. Royal Godcall's pride as an expert was trampled on once more. No point in competing like this. You'll only leave yourself angry over nothing, Sword Demon consoled him. Chapter 193, Improvisation. Gufei's magic attack power was terrifyingly high and it could insta-kill many people. In fact, any job class with low HP would have no way of surviving his spells. Right now, however, he was facing 3 guardians that had allocated most of their points toward endurance and were holding 3 shields with high magic defense. Given all these, it was not surprising for Gufei to be unable to insta-kill the 3. As for the other 7 players that were also hiding behind the shields, they were essentially unaffected by Gufei's spell. This was because the system had merely calculated the damage dealt toward the ones holding the shields when descending wheel of flames had landed on the enemies. At this moment, Sword Demon finished appraising the 3 guardians holding the shields. What the? Sword Demon lost a bit of his calm demeanor and read the traits aloud. Bulwark of Imprisonment absorbs 50% of physical damage as well as spell damage. Boosts both physical and magic defense by another 30%. Adds 20 points to endurance. Holy! And they have 3 of those? Don't forget, that's just a boost from the shields. If we add in the defense they receive from their other equipment, their defensive ability is basically off the charts. Any kinds of attacks would just be child's play to them. Royal Godcall's face lost its color as he said this. Adding all the equipment the 3 men had on them, even the strongest skill, snipe, in Royal Godcall's arsenal would barely put a scratch on them. I may still be of use. I can probably avoid their shields and attack them from behind by using backstabbing bludgeon, Sword Demon grimaced. However, the thing was that all 10 enemies were closely packed together, and the remaining 7 would of course be standing close behind the 3 guardians, so how would Sword Demon find the opportunity to actually ambush those guardians from behind? Looks like it's up to me. Gufei took a few steps forward and raised his sword, blazing 3 of 1,000 Inferno. Arise! Gufei had sadly not allocated any points to spirit or intelligence, so his spells could not be casted out instantly and needed a brief moment to actually take effect. That brief moment was enough for the opponents to prepare for his upcoming spell attack, as any skilled player could tell where a spell would be casted by just looking at the where a mage was pointing at. Gufei's chanting was also rather loud, not hiding the fact that he was casting a spell at them. It was as if he was trying to see just how his opponents would react. If I cast a descending wheel of flames, they will definitely raise their shields upward to defend against it. But a spell that emerges from the ground can surely inflict damage on them, right? What else could they do? Lay those shields down and step on them? Who knew that the enemies would do exactly that? The 3 guardians deftly lay their bulwark of imprisonment down on the ground and the other 7 men hopped on the shields. By the time the flames of Gufei's spell finally sprouted from the ground and spread around, the 10 men were already comfortably standing on the shields. They can even do that? Gufei was in tears. Your spell casting time is really. Sword Demon and Royal Godcall were at a loss for words. Actually, the opponent's approach would not have worked had they met a different mage with quick casting time. Dispersing among themselves, making enough room to put the 3 large shields on the ground, and hopping onto the shields. These methodical steps of theirs needed time, and it was only due to Gufei's slow casting time that they could pull all those off before the flames rose from the ground. Wait, let me try casting 2 spells on them at once, Gufei told the 2 as he fished out an apple to munch on. Casting 4 high mana consuming AO spells was Gufei's current limit, and he had already cast 3 AO spells ever since this match started. No need. Sword Demon said, Given how easy it is to avoid your spells with your slow casting speed, I'm certain they've only done that to see how high your spell damage is. It was exactly as what Sword Demon had said. A small gap appeared between the two shields just as the three guardians once more placed their shields before them. Silvermoon emerged from that gap and spoke, "Miles bro, your spell damage is indeed terrifying." Gufei eked out a smile. He was currently eating an apple, so he could not reply to him. "Are your three other companions not coming over?" Silvermoon's eyes rested on young Master Han, brother assist, and War Without Wounds that were standing at a distance. Gufei was still munching on his apple, so he did not respond to him. This resulted into Royal God Call interjecting, "Is there a need to send our full force just to deal with you guys?" As Sword Demon and Gufei glared at him fiercely, Royal God Call feebly explained, "Those are just words people use to set the stage." "Royal, what you just said really resonated with me." Gufei finally finished munching on the apple he had in his hand and said this, "There's indeed no need to send everyone, just me will do." Sword Demon's fierce glare shifted from Royal God Call to Gufei. In his mind, Miles was not someone who would act recklessly or foolishly like this. Just the three guardians were already hard to handle, and Silvermoon had not even activated his skill yet. So Sword Demon was thinking that they should not be taking this 10-man group too lightly. Royal God Call was now glaring at Gufei as well, with his mouth opening wide agape. "What are you trying to do? Let's move a bit closer to them." Gufei was about to step forward when Sword Demon held him back and said, "Are you intending to blink into their formation? That's useless. Since you can't insta-kill them, you won't be able to display your ability no matter how skilled you are if they gang up and squeeze you in." It was a realistic problem that arose during PvP due to Parallel World being a full immersion game. Therefore, having the ability to insta-kill opponents was a necessity if anyone wished to fight with many in-game. If a person was unable to take lives with his or her every strike, then the opponents would just bear the damage inflicted on them and squeeze him or her in. How could the person fight if he or she could not even extend an arm and or a leg? This was the strategy that Forfeiture had hesitated to use against Gufei during their skirmish to prove the latter's identity as the sole male mage in Amethyst Rebirth. "Relax, I'm not that dumb." Gufei reassuringly patted Sword Demon on his back, "Assist me when the time comes." With that, he walked toward the 10 men alone. A distance away, young Master Han became stunned when he saw Gufei's action, so he asked Brother Assist, "Has that guy gone mad? Is he intending to take them all by himself?" "I think so," Brother Assist replied, equally shocked. Silvermoon and his men were also very surprised by Gufei's action of going to them by himself, uncertain of what to make of it. "What now, boss? Do we still go according to plan?" someone asked Silvermoon. "Stick to the original plan." Silvermoon gritted his teeth, "This mage is scary. The rest will be easy to handle once we eliminate him." The rest of them nodded their heads as they readied themselves. Gufei was closing in on them with his every step. 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters. The atmosphere was growing tenser the closer Gufei got to the enemies. But then, he suddenly stopped walking forward. The whole scene froze. What is he up to? Silvermoon's men were all quite nervous now. They might have 3 pieces of bulwark of imprisonment to protect them, but Gufei's spell damage was still scarily high. Therefore, those who were not holding onto the bulwark of imprisonment felt inexorably nervous. The 7 men subconsciously pressed themselves closer to the 3 guardians. Gufei was not actually doing anything special. He had only stopped advancing forward because he had received a message from young Master Han. "What do you intend to do?" "Improvising," Gufei answered. "Even if you die, you have to take down at least 3 or 5 of them," young Master Han said. "I'll do my best," Gufei answered. With that, he continued his forward advance and the distance between him and the 10 men was slowly reduced to just 5 meters. From his current position, he could clearly see Silvermoon's shameless mug as well as the other men's nervous expression. The enemy's anxiety reached another height when Gufei slowed down his steps. They still could not fathom Gufei's intention. As a mage, wasn't he simply courting death by getting closer to them? 4 meters, 3 meters, Gufei was still moving closer to them. Silvermoon could not take it any longer. Swiftly taking something out of his dimensional pocket, he swung that item about and commanded, "Charge." Although the command he had given was charge, the men had actually huddled even closer behind the shields, with not even a human figure in sight. As Gufei was wondering if this was a variation of the command charge, golden light shone from within the clustered men. Silvermoon had activated his skill that boosted his party's stats. Following this, the three guardians suddenly charged toward Gufei with the shield still held before them. There were gaps between the shields, and the warriors' claymores extended outward from them like lances. It's the charge skill. Gufei instantly realized. With the enemies being hidden from view by the shield wall, he failed to see the men's starting motion for the activation of the skill. Silvermoon's king's command was currently in effect, so the speed at which these warriors were charging at Gufei was swifter and fiercer than any charging attack that he had experienced before. 5 men were responsible for using charge on him, and they were charging at him while lining up in a horizontal line, stacking the 3 great shields closely together with 2 claymores sticking out between the gap in the shields. No matter how fast one's speed and reaction time was, it was practically impossible to dodge these charging warriors in this proximity after they had been buffed by Silvermoon. Gufei was currently standing just less than 3 meters away from the charging men, and even Svelte Dancer on Fleetfoot would not be able to escape this charging attack under such short range. However, there was perhaps only one person in Parallel World that could properly dodge this attack right now, and that was Gufei. To be specific, it was the Gufei since last night. After all, it was only last night that Gufei had obtained the skill for instantaneous movement to a faraway location, Blink. At the moment that the enemy's claymores and shields were about to slam into him, Gufei casted Blink. A swish softly echoed about as he dissolved into nothingness in his standing position. With a boost of speed from both Silvermoon's skill and their charge, the 5 men were blindly rushing ahead, unaware that Gufei was no longer before them as their sights were blocked by the large shields. Behind the 5 charging men, the remaining 5, 2 knights, 1 warrior, 1 priest, and Silvermoon himself, were running slightly slower behind. The entire team was currently glowing brightly in the same golden color that was beaming from the king's blade that was owned by Silvermoon. These remaining 5 either did not have the charge skill or chose to not use it. Merely running after the 2 warriors and 3 guardians that had stampeded forward, they saw a sudden crack and distortion of the air before them, and in the next instant, Gufei had already appeared right before their eyes. While they were still reeling from this shocking development, Gufei already wielded his sword at them, Twin Incineration. Incinerate. His black sword shone with purple luster as he slashed at Silvermoon and the 2 knights before him with Twin Incineration. These men's stats were boosted by King's command, yet they were still no match for Gufei's magic attack power. The 2 knights were killed off by his one sword strike, and only Silvermoon managed to survive his attack. Silvermoon was fully equipped with top-grade equipment, so his magic defense was rather high. This was also the case when he was at level 30. Now that he was at level 40, the equipment he had on him was an entire grade better. As for Gufei, his proficiency with Twin Incineration had also increased by leaps and bounds since their last confrontation, and he had also learned to mix his swordsmanship with spells. Nonetheless, this increase in Gufei's damage output was not as significant as Silvermoon's increase in defense and HP. Just like in Y City, Gufei was still unable to insta-kill Silvermoon right now. Chapter 194, We're Experts, 2. Twin Incineration also had a cooldown time, so Gufei could only casually swing his sword at Silvermoon for his next move. It was at this point that the opposing priest's heel landed onto Silvermoon, who continued to firmly hold his king's blade aloft. The warrior behind Silvermoon activated charge and promptly hurled himself toward Gufei. Having been on guard for such a move, Gufei evaded it with a sidestep, but the warrior did what War Without Wounds had done back then, cancel charge and replace it with Cyclone. While it was the same sequence of actions, this warrior's execution of it could not even compare to War Without Wounds. Still, his execution of the move was not slow. Thanks to Silvermoon's buffing, the warrior's attack power was fearsomely high. Unfortunately, he lacked the tempo, so his transition from charge to Cyclone was not as seamless as War Without Wounds. It was this break in tempo that provided Gufei an exploitable opportunity. With a flourish of his sword, he directly blocked the opponent's claymore mid-swing, and using the momentum that Cyclone's motion had provided, Gu Fei hopped off the ground with a tap of his foot and swiftly glided away from the warrior. The man's claymore in his non-dominant hand barely brushed past the very corners of Gu Fei's robe, signifying the latter's successful evasion of the cyclone attack. Meanwhile, the skill duration of charge had ended for the 5 men who had been rushing at Gu Fei's original position. Turning around, they were greeted by the chaotic scene that Gu Fei had created, and Silver Moon hurriedly ordered the confused lot back to attack Gu Fei anew. The sword-wielding mage chuckled to himself as he ran straight toward the 5 men. The 3 guardians equipped with powerful shields were very confident of their defensive capabilities, and when they saw Gu Fei running toward them, they fearlessly confronted him by firmly holding their shields before them. Gu Fei knew that clashing headlong with the 3 guardians equipped with high defensive shields was just suicide, so he abruptly took a lateral step, intending to go to the enemy's rear. This move of his was quite similar to Royal Godcall's action at the start of the PvP. Truly, looping around another person was always slower than pivoting from one spot. Gu Fei tried to run in an arc to get behind them, yet he kept finding himself facing the 3 shields instead. A delighted smile spread across the 3 guardians' lips as they noticed how Gu Fei had repeatedly failed to get behind them. This time, they were the ones who ran toward him. But Gu Fei merely smiled back at them, his finger pointing forward as he whispered an incantation. At the same time, Silver Moon hollered to the 3 guardians, "Watch your backs." A swish could be heard when Gu Fei finished his whispering, and he disappeared and reappeared just behind the 3 guardians. Without even hesitating, he turned his body around and lashed out his sword, yelling, "Twin incineration! Incinerate!" Clink! Gu Fei's sword glanced across a shield. Silver Moon's warning had been timely. It showed the tacit understanding he had with his men, as the 3 men did not question his order and merely turned around. One of the guardians managed to properly position his shield before Gu Fei had blinked himself into existence again, causing his sword to clash right into the shield. "So it truly is blank," Silver Moon mumbled to himself. Gu Fei marveled at the enemy's fast reaction. He was just about to follow up his slash with another when he saw a huge shield ramming toward him from the left. Gu Fei sidestepped to the right, yet this move caused him to collide with something solid. Looking at it, he saw yet another large shield. And before he knew it, a 3rd shield had slammed right into him from the front. Gu Fei scrambled to retreat, but a painful cry escaped his lips in the next second when 2 shields slammed into him from his left and right, effectively trapping him in the middle. Didn't see this coming. Gu Fei did not know whether to laugh or cry at this turn of event. He struggled to free himself from the shield's grip, yet the guardian's strength was simply beyond his. "Get him!" Silver Moon ordered in elation. The order was unnecessary, though, as the remaining 3 warriors had already sprinted ahead, lifting their swords high while trying to get close enough to strike at Gu Fei, who was being restrained by the 3 guardians. But just then, an arrow had struck the back of one of the 3 guardians. It was an arrow fired off by Royal Godcall, of course. Sword Demon and him had been watching everything from a distance all this while. After Gu Fei had successfully messed up the enemy's formation, they had been looking for a chance to mount their own assault. Royal Godcall already had his bow and arrow at the ready, and seeing the scene unfold before him, he immediately fired off an arrow on snipe at one of the 3 guardians' exposed back. A shield's defense stat was far superior to any other equipment, so of course the developers would put some kind of limitation on it. Take a normal equipment like defensive headgear for example. The defensive properties of a headgear would be added to the overall defense stat of a player, and even if that player was hit in some other body parts, like maybe the legs or arms, the damage they received would still be the same. A shield was different. An attack had to make contact with it first before the shield's defensive properties could be triggered. Essentially, the great defensive boost from a shield meant nothing if an attack did not land on it. Royal Godcall's arrow stabbed into one of the guardians' exposed back, and since the arrow did not hit his shield, the inflicted damage was of course calculated based on just his regular defense stat. The snipe of an archer like Royal Godcall that possessed a high physical damage should not be underestimated. This was even more so since Royal Godcall had followed up his snipe with double shot and power shot. Given all this, the Guardian's demise for exposing his back to Royal Godcall was only a matter of time. The priest and the warrior who were standing by earlier hurriedly made their way over once they saw the Guardian being hit by an arrow, but the second waves of arrows from Royal God Call was still the fastest to reach that guardian. Right now, only 2 guardians were clamping down on Gu Fei. There was still the third guardian, yet he was just motionlessly standing there. The man whom Royal God Call had struck with 4 arrows saw his HP deplete fast. His other comrades could not seem to make it over in time to provide him assistance, so he hollered to the third guardian near him, "Why are you just standing there? I'm dying, block the arrows for me." However, the third guardian merely stood there without moving, an expression of anguish contorting his face. "He can't do that for you at the moment." A faint voice was heard from behind the third guardian, and Sword Demon faded into view in the next moment. He casually returned the baton into his pocket and took out a dagger that sinisterly emitted a bluish light. While Royal God Call had been looking for a chance to shoot arrows, Sword Demon had activated his stealth and entered the PvP field itself earlier. The enemies made a fatal mistake when they focused their attention solely on Gu Fei. With the third guardian under a dizzy state and his other teammates still a distance away, the particular guardian who had been wounded by numerous arrows realized that he would be dead soon if he kept on standing there to restrain Gu Fei with his shield. Thus, he decisively released Gu Fei and used his bulwark of imprisonment to protect himself. "His HP is low, quickly finish him off," Sword Demon shouted as he darted to the left. Now that Gu Fei was free again, he wordlessly matched Sword Demon's action and darted to the right. The poor guardian did not know whether to block the left or the right. Judging that Gu Fei's spell damage was more frightening, he promptly faced his shield toward Gu Fei. Sword Demon mercilessly used backstab on the man, as Gu Fei casted twin incineration despite the shield in place. While this dying guardian was anxiously trying to choose which side to defend against, the long-forgotten sharpshooter Royal God Call in the distance shot off an arrow filled with indignation. Gu Fei's monstrously high spell damage had actually caused the opponents to ignore the others as potential threats. In actuality, Sword Demon and Royal God Call were also top experts. Compared to the players with the same job classes as them, the damage that the two could dish out was still unusually strong, despite it not being as op as Gu Fei's. Ignoring the two men's existence was simply too fatal. Facing a 3-pronged attack, the wounded guardian was unable to hold on to his dear life. White light flashed as the guardian was teleported out of the PvP arena along with his shield. At this moment, the remaining members of Silver Moon mercenary group who had moved to assist the guardians finally arrived by their side. Gu Fei and Sword Demon unhesitatingly sprinted off upon the arrival of their enemy's reinforcement. Sword Demon ran because he did not have the ability to take on multiple opponents by himself, while Gu Fei ran because he had depleted his mana in that last bout. The enemy warriors and the priest could simply not match Gu Fei and Sword Demon's running speed, so the two managed to safely withdraw themselves from the opposing group's formation and arrived by Royal God Call's side. Young Master Han, who had been observing the whole affair from afar, smiled. "Not bad. Looks like we have secured victory for today's match." Silver Moon, on the other hand, had a bitter expression on his face. Saying that they were at a disadvantage with how everything had panned out was not an exaggeration. Gu Fei, who unexpectedly possessed Blank, had successfully killed off 2 of their knights earlier. Even the 3 guardians were unable to trap him for long, which resulted into them losing one of those 3 as well. Young Master's elite was now ahead in terms of kill points, essentially fulfilling the conditions for Grand Kiting, a strategy that Silver Moon team was extremely wary of. This was because his team did not have anyone who could match Gu Fei's, Royal God Call's, or Sword Demon's speed. Even young Master Han, War Without Wounds, and Brother Assist would likely have the same movement speed as Silver Moon's mercenaries, and it would be hard to target those 3 since they were even further away. Even if Silver Moon had King's Blade to increase his min stats, the duration that he could channel this skill was too short, losing 4% of his mana for every second. This meant that he could only keep it up for 25 seconds. They absolutely had no way of catching up to the 3 speedsters within that limited time frame. At a distance, Gu Fei was eating fruit to recover his mana and was cheerfully appreciating the look of consternation on the remaining enemy troops' faces with Sword Demon and Royal God Call. "What now, boss?" Upon seeing that the 3 of Gu Fei, Sword Demon, and Royal God Call had no intention of continuing to fight with them any longer, these men finally realized how grave their situation was and sought the advice of their leader. Silver Moon. Silver Moon looked all around him in confusion. Goofei's group was fast, so chasing after them was not even feasible. He gestured for his men to make their way toward the other three opponents. But before they could even take more than 3 steps, those three immediately ran off. Sigh. Even this last flicker of hope was extinguished. Silver Moon did not know what to do, knowing that his opponents would try to drag the time out like this. Although the map was small, Silver Moon lacked enough men to surround the targets and assert pressure all over the map. The only way to kill their opponents was to chase after them. But Chapter 195, getting him to reveal himself. Goofei, Sword Demon, and Royal God Call were too fast for them, so Silver Moon commanded his men to focus on the other 3 slower opponents, instead. But as soon as young Master Han, War Without Wounds, and Brother Assist started running away, Silver Moon realized that the 3 were simply too far away, so he let out a sigh and ordered his men to stop chasing after the 3. Silver Moon's sigh did not escape Goofei, Sword Demon, and Royal God Call's keen eyes. Goofei could not be bothered to converse with Silver Moon, while Sword Demon lacked interest in a war of words. Only Royal God Call was childish enough to make fun of Silver Moon for it. Silver Moon bro, do we really have to continue this fight? Why don't you people just kill yourselves to save us the trouble? This shitty brat. What are you insinuating? Although their situation was indeed dire, Silver Moon's fellow mercenaries refused to take Royal God Call's insulting words lying down and immediately hurled back slurs at him. Silver Moon was actually the only one who had not responded to Royal God Call's taunting and merely continued to ponder on a solution to their predicament. Royal God Call was filled with despicable pride as he continued to wage verbal war with the enemies. Goofei steadily munched on his fruit, and Sword Demon relayed the information based on his use of appraisal to young Master Han, Brother Assist, and War Without Wounds. Sword Demon had tried appraising Silver Moon's golden sword for several times already, but he had failed to find out anything about the item in the end. For a weapon's traits and stats to still remain unknown despite being appraised by someone with a higher ranking for the appraisal skill, it could only mean that the weapon itself was a higher level weapon like Goofei's Moonlit Nightfalls. I'll get closer to appraise it myself. Brother Assist was unwilling to let this opportunity go, especially since it was his passion to uncover the secrets of unknown items. He then proceeded to climb up the small hill with War Without Wounds and young Master Han. Silver Moon could not fathom why their 3 enemies were suddenly advancing toward them instead of fleeing, but it was actually a good thing for him. So he acted as if he did not notice their movement and diverted his gaze to the acrimonious verbal exchange happening next to him. All the while, he was telling his companions on the mercenary channel to prepare themselves for a fight at any given time and to try and take down the enemies in one fell swoop. However, young Master Han and the 2 others only proceeded up to where Goofei and the rest were and explained Brother Assist's intention. Is your appraisal's rank higher than mine? Sword Demon asked. Maybe my luck will be better than yours, Brother Assist replied, putting on the air of an expert. As long as the matter did not involve fighting, Brother Assist was more than willing to be boastful. I'm off. Brother Assist said this in a tone that sounded as if he was bound for a kamikaze trip. A certain distance was required for the appraisal skill to work, and since he did not have the speed of Goofei or the other speed demons in young Master's elite, he was not sure if he could make it back after getting close to the enemies. Must you be this persistent in finding out just what sword he is using? Someone tried to dissuade Brother Assist from taking the risk. It's a hobby, Brother Assist smiled. We'll cover you, Goofei said, somewhat understanding the mentality of someone passionate over something. Young Master Han, for his part, reacted indifferently. Actually, you guys don't need to assist him. We are currently ahead by 3 kill points against them. Giving them 1 kill point won't affect our group's victory. Everyone could not believe how indifferent young Master Han was about the life and death of a comrade. What young Master said makes sense. Plus, I haven't been of much use in this match. Brother Assist agreed. No can do. We're friends, after all. Royal God Call exclaimed emphatically. When everyone threw him a disgusted look, he asked perplexedly, did I say something wrong? You didn't, but, Goofei began, but as a group of adults, what you've said is cringeworthy, young Master Han finished. Even Brother Assist laughed at this and said, it's good to be young, before walking toward Silver Moon. "Fuck, it's not like you guys are that much older than me," Royal Godcall exclaimed indignantly. "The point is that we're not as young and naive as you are." War Without Wounds had on an expression as if he had seen much in life. "Fuck off. You're the old one, alright," Royal Godcall shouted at War Without Wounds. War Without Wounds lifted his arm with a glare, but Royal Godcall had already run off far from him. The ones who really took actions to words were Sword Demon and Goofy. When each of them flanked Brother Assist's left and right as they followed him toward Silver Moon, Sword Demon and Goofy could not help but smile at each other for doing the same thing. Young Master Han expressionlessly stared at the two, unimpressed by their action. "There's really no need." Brother Assist persuaded the two to return to the group. "I wanna try my luck again," Sword Demon said. "I need to train my appraisal as well, so I can't let this chance go," Goofy said. Brother Assist no longer insisted and just smiled at the two as they made their way up the hill together. Atop the hill, Silver Moon continued to monitor the enemy's activity below. He could not eavesdrop on their conversation, so he had no idea on why the three men were making their way up the hill. The members of Young Master's elite should logically be distancing themselves from his group to safeguard their victory for this match, yet three of them were actually heading this way. Just what were they trying to achieve? Furthermore, there was a knight among them. Silver Moon was a knight himself, so he could say with surety that it was not a job class that could determine the match's outcome. Suspicion filled his heart and he hesitated over whether his group should attack or defend right now. The confidence he had to defeat his current opponents with his ability to buff his comrades had long disappeared ever since they managed to kill 3 of his men. Compared to when Goofy approached them by himself earlier, Silver Moon and company felt even more anxious right now at the sight of the 3 men of Young Master's elite nearing them. "Huddle up, watch your backs," Silver Moon barked this order. The remaining 7 men stood closer to one another, with the 2 guardians bracing their large shields to the front, Silver Moon and the priest occupying the center, and the 3 other warriors flanking the sides according to instructions. One warrior stood facing the right, another faced the left, and the last one faced the rear. This was done to prevent Goofy from catching them by surprise when he blinked himself anywhere around them. "Fuck." Seeing such a formation, Goofy and the others could only curse aloud. With Silver Moon hidden behind the 2 guardians' raised shields, how was Brother Assist going to appraise him? The trio moved to the enemy's flank, but this only caused Silver Moon's formation to turn in response. The 3 found themselves facing the 2 large shields in their general direction no matter which direction they moved, making even Goofy annoyed. "Oi!" Call Silver Moon out. Goofy went from passive to active. A gap appeared between the 2 large shields, yet Silver Moon did not show his face. Rather, he bellowed from behind the shield wall, "Miles bro, why are you calling for me?" "To talk," Goofy replied. "Speak, then. It's better if you show your face first," Goofy insisted. "Oh, there's nothing to talk about, then." The more Silver Moon heard from Goofy, the more fearful he grew of showing his face, as he fully assumed that they had prepared some sort of trap to kill him off. Goofy shrugged helplessly at Brother Assist and Sword Demon. "Guess there's no other way. Let's leave," Brother Assist sighed. "What? Why?" Goofy asked. "Well, how can we appraise him if he's unwilling to appear before us?" Brother Assist replied with a question. "If he's not showing himself, we'll just create a situation that would force him to do just that," Goofy declared resolutely. "How can that be done?" Brother Assist asked. "I'll just kill everyone else." Goofy pulled out his sword. "Don't be so rash." Sword Demon and Brother Assist tried to stop him. The 2 guardians in charge of observing the enemy's motion immediately exclaimed to the men behind them, "That mage has pulled out his sword. Pay close attention to your surroundings, everyone. He is about to use blank." Silver Moon hurriedly warned. Translocation, blank. Goofy chanted. Goofy disappeared with a swish from his spot and instantly materialized behind the Silver Moon's PvP formation, promptly stabbing his sword backward. The warrior behind thought that he had gained the upper hand when he saw Goofy appear before him with his back turned, but Goofy unexpectedly stabbed his sword backward without even turning around. This was Goofy's fighting style that always strove to deliver the quickest and smoothest attacks possible, making him seem fast and indomitable. The warrior, who had tried to attack first, ended up blocking Goofy's backhanded stab instead. Unfortunately for the warrior, Gu Fei had just cast Twin Incineration while thrusting his sword at an angle that no ordinary people could defend against. The combination of the spell's magic damage and sword's physical damage had just ensured the warrior's death. The other mercenaries of Silver Moon did not just watch their comrade die in vain, and they moved in to unleash their own attacks on Gu Fei. The two guardians lifted their shields in an attempt to clamp Gu Fei down from both ends. "Not this again!" Gu Fei hollered. Choosing not to evade the shields this time, he instead fished out sacred flames of baptism from his dimensional pocket and positioned it before him horizontally. The Chinese broadsword's width was wider than a man's girth, so it effectively prevented the two shields from trapping Gu Fei between them once more. He then stamped the two shields down with his legs to propel himself upward. Gu Fei's meager strength was of course not enough to kick the two guardians away, but it was still sufficient to help lift his body upward, and he succeeded in leaping away to escape the two shields' entrapment by doing that. Borrowing the momentum of his falling body, Gu Fei cleaved his sword downward to one of the guardian, and the sound of metal cutting metal could be heard echoing in the next instant. The damage inflicted on the guardian by Moonlit Nightfall's basic attack was actually not much, but the deafening sound of Gu Fei's strike fooled everyone nearby into thinking that he had managed to cut the guardian in half. It was only when the guardian turned around that everyone realized that he was still alive. Twin Incineration. Incinerate. The cooldown time ended for Twin Incineration that he had cast earlier, so Gu Fei quickly cast another one and powered his sword slash to the guardian and the warrior beside him with it. The guardian survived the blow, but the other warrior did not, and the latter disappeared in a flash of white light. Actually, Gu Fei's attack was not just powered by Moonlight Nightfall's physical damage and spell damage, but also by the sword's 10% chance of dealing fatal blow trait. Moreover, Gu Fei had items that increased his chances of proxing the additional fire attack. It was when all these effects stacked together that Gu Fei's damage could be viewed as powerful beyond belief. Chapter 196, You Are Near. That is why Gu Fei's maximum damage output could only be fully unleashed when he was in close combat, as the additional fire attack as well as the fatal blow trait would only be activated when his weapon made contact with the enemy, and casting Descending Wheel of Flames and similar AO spells would not generate these effects at all. At this moment, Gu Fei had fortunately procced all these traits. With the physical and spell damage of Moonlit Nightfalls, Twin Incineration's damage, 10% fatal blow, and the additional fire attack, Gu Fei managed to take down the enemy warrior with his one sword slash. This feat meant more than just that, however. The warriors had yet to undergo his job class advancement, but given his stat point allocation, he already possessed a large HP pool. Moreover, he had equipped himself with high magic defense gear all over after learning of Gu Fei's monstrously high magic attack power. Who knew that that would still not be enough to survive Gu Fei's one sword slash, though? Silver Moon and his fellow mercenaries were of course aware of their companion's high HP and how he had high resistance to magic attacks, so they were horrified that Gu Fei could finish him off with just one strike. Through appraisal, they managed to identify Gu Fei's various accessories that granted him higher chances of dealing additional fire attack, but they failed to get any information about his sword and robe. Silver Moon, who owned King's Blade, naturally knew what it meant when an item could not be perused through the current standard of appraisal. Gu Fei's two pieces of equipment were at the forefront in terms of grade and tier, and the others could not appraise it since their levels were considered lower than those equipment. Just what is so special about his sword and robe? This thought filtered through the minds of everyone in Silver Moon's group as they got even more curious about Gu Fei's two unidentified items. Actually, Brother Assist's desire to uncover the secret behind Silver Moon's sword was equal to Silver Moon's desire to find out about Gu Fei's equipment. In fact, his feeling might even be stronger than Brother Assist's, as their side was at a disadvantage right now due to their lack of understanding of Gu Fei's equipment. Losing the current match without finding out the real deal behind those two pieces of equipment would be akin to dying senselessly without accomplishing anything. Silver Moon was within arm's reach of Gu Fei and the latter only had to lift his hand to cut the former, but recalling Brother Assist's intention to appraise Silver Moon, Gu Fei temporarily spared his life and extended his sword toward another warrior. Instead, Silver Moon had a total of 3 guardians, 3 knights, including himself, 3 warriors, and 1 priest in the beginning, but the 3 from Young Master's elite had already gotten rid of 1 guardian, 2 knights, and 2 warriors. Gufei was currently assaulting the last warrior of their bunch, who happened to be the one with the highest damage output in Silver Moon's team. While the 2 guardians had charge, cyclone, and other skills of the warrior job class, their weapon of choice was a shield, so their damage output was still lower than the sole remaining warrior, since shields boosted their defensive capabilities more than their offensive capabilities. Not good. Everyone, protect our warrior. Counting the remaining mercenaries he had in his team, Silver Moon realized the importance of this last warrior and quickly gave out this order when he saw Gufei make his way toward the man. Gufei had already struck the target with his sword, but Silver Moon's timely warning had allowed the priest to quickly bestow heal on the warrior. Gufei's twin incineration was still on cooldown, so his sword's basic attack was easily countered by that heal, making it seem as if Gufei had not attacked the warrior in the first place. Silver Moon immediately rushed over and wedged his sword between the 2 in an attempt to protect the warrior from Gufei, while the 2 guardians also moved close to the warrior and raised their shields up on his left and right. Somehow, Silver Moon's current formation had ended up revolving around their last remaining warrior. Just as Silver Moon was feeling gratified at his quick-wittedness, he saw Gufei approach the priest in a few quick strides. Twin incineration. Incinerate. Gufei's sword came cleaving down. Most priests would be flustered when their enemies drew near them, but this priest actually remained calm. With Gufei's fast speed, the priest knew that fleeing was not an option, so he settled for bestowing heal on himself when Gufei's sword came slashing down. Priests had an edge in endurance, so they could withstand Gufei's attack as long as they focused their points to that stat at level 40. This priest before Gufei had done exactly that and allocated most of his points to endurance. He was a rather unfortunate fellow, though, as Gufei was not the only one that was dealing with him. A yellowish light infused Gufei's body earlier when he casted Twin Incineration. It was the blessing of intelligence by the Night Brother assist, which increased the former's spell damage to a whole new level. At the same time, Sword Demon had appeared from behind the priest and executed backstab with his dagger, his body pulsing red from Brother Assist's blessing of strength. Despite bestowing heal on himself beforehand, the priest could only watch his HP drop to nothing when both attacks landed on him from the front and the back. Is the priest your target all along? Were you merely pretending to strike at the warrior to fool us into isolating our priest? Silver Moon's extremities went cold upon witnessing the death of his priest. He looked at the 2 guardians protecting the warrior and his heart seethed with hate-filled regret. Gufei looked blankly at him before smiling. It's nothing that fancy. Then, Silver Moon was nonplussed. I targeted your last warrior earlier because he was the closest to me, that's all. Gufei pointed to the warrior that Silver Moon and the rest were heavily guarding and said, I would attack anyone who was in his position just then. Silver Moon was coughing up blood inside him. He had put too much emphasis on Gufei's spell damage, causing him to become very nervous. Making mistakes when one was anxious was easy, and this blunder of his had caused the death of their priest. Without the priest, the HP of Silver Moon's members would only dwindle without the possibility of recovery. This meant that their defeat was inevitable. Young Master Han and the rest, who were looking from afar, also saw the overwhelming advantage that their force had gained in their foray and realized the futility of employing the grand kiting strategy, as facing the remaining 4 enemies head-on and killing them was no longer a problem. As such, the others promptly made their way over, while Gufei retreated to a safe distance. The reason was of course Gufei's need to eat fruit again. Man, your mana. He. Several of his fellow mercenaries could only chuckle teasingly. Gufei ignored their teasing and merely indicated to Brother Assist the very exposed Silver Moon, quickly appraise him. I've already appraised him. I really can't get anything out of it. Brother Assist shook his head and sighed. Isn't it just a matter of probability when it comes to appraising something successfully? Gufei asked. Maybe. The officials did not clearly provide information on this matter, so nobody could tell for sure. Let's kill the rest and leave Silver Moon alive, so that you can appraise him for 100 times. Maybe, you will find something out by doing that, Gufei suggested. Is this how you plan to torture him? Everyone sharply inhaled. Isn't this something you need? Gufei questioningly gazed at Brother Assist. Brother Assist just wiped the non-existent sweat off his forehead. Let's talk about this after we kill the rest. Young Master Han waved his hand dismissively. Wait for me to recover my mana. Gufei requested hurriedly. Chill, man. You've already killed a few, why don't you leave the rest to us and let us earn some kill points? Several of his fellow mercenaries eagerly rubbed their fists and palms as they went forward, and it was obvious that they had no intention of waiting for Gufei at all. Straightforwardly clashing with one another without any strategy. This essentially boiled down to their skills and the teamwork of both sides. Silver Moon mercenary groups, 2 guardians and 1 warrior formed a triangle with Silver Moon at its core, and he blessed the 3 with blessing of strength. This was to ensure that his comrades would grow even stronger when he used King's command later. Over by Young Master's elite mercenary group, each person did what he was best at. Royal God Call fired off arrows from afar. War Without Wounds and Sword Demon closed in on the enemies to strike at an opportune moment. Brother Assist blessed his comrades accordingly, and Young Master Han readied his staff to bestow heal on his team's 2 melee job classes. Since Silver Moon and his fellow mercenaries did not have any long-range capabilities, there was no need for Young Master's elite to worry about long-range attacks at all. Once War Without Wounds and Sword Demon were near enough, Silver Moon raised his sword, and the 2 guardians and 1 warrior were suddenly infused by golden light and used charge to rush at the approaching 2. The 2 were already prepared for this. Sword Demon activated Fleetfoot and circled around the 3, while War Without Wounds braced himself to receive the charging enemies. While the ensuing collision looked frightening to onlookers, the game still calculated the damage systematically. In the end, War Without Wounds' high defense rendered the enemy's tackle as ineffectual. After purposely receiving the enemy's charge, War Without Wounds did not counterattack and instead chose to shout out a number behind him. Young Master Han smiled and relayed this to Brother Assist. Brother Assist quickly understood what was happening and promptly added the equipment data he had appraised from the Guardians to do some calculation. Since the Guardians' weapons were shields, their attack power was only based off on their strength as well as the skill's inherent damage, simplifying Brother Assist's calculation process. Brother Assist took out a booklet and began to solve it using X's and Y's. Royal God Call temporarily stopped his attack to take a look at Brother Assist's calculation. Is there a need to do column equations? Young Master Han looked sideways at Royal God Call. I knew it. A student like you who play games every day truly doesn't spend time on his studies. You call that column equations? That's function, which uses x and y as variables. Do you understand what variables are? Their 3 opponents that were under the effect of King's command were desperate to score a hit against them fast, as there was a limit to how long Silver Moon could use that skill. Unfortunately for their enemies, Young Master's elite was made up of a bunch of old hands that were not foolish enough to confront them at such a period. Instead, they scattered about and fled in different directions. Even War Without Wounds, who was closest to the buffed enemies, had managed to quickly pull away from them with his life intact by using charge. Eventually, the King's command skill ended and the 2 guardians and 1 warrior returned to their normal state. Young Master Han noted the time and muttered, Silver Moon's skill lasted about 25 seconds last time, but it did not even reach 25 seconds now. Probably because he has blessed each of his 3 comrades before this. By the looks of things, that skill depletes his mana as he channels it. With that, he shouted to his team's knight, how's your calculation progressing, Brother Assist? Don't rush me. How can I calculate all these so quickly? I don't know how much damage their charge skill can provide, so my calculation may not be too accurate. I think it's better to find someone to get tackled again. Brother Assist replied. But the battle is about to end already. Young Master Han said as he stared at a certain direction. In that direction, Gufei, who had already recovered his mana, was sprinting over with a huff. Chapter 197, Rekindling Old Grudges. Leave them to me, Gufei declared as he appeared in the middle of the skirmish. Royal God Call and the others felt oppressed. The remaining enemies were job classes that possessed higher physical defense compared to magic defense, especially the 2 guardians who did not even feel a thing when Royal God Call was firing arrows at them, so Gufei with his high spell damage would definitely be able to deal with them better. However, Their pride as expert gamers would not allow them to just sit back and let Gufei deal with the enemies alone. Knowing that they would be lucky enough to get in an attack or two against the enemies if they tried, Sword Demon and War Without Wounds pounced on Silver Moon and his gang with the ferocity of starving tigers, while Royal God Call fired off arrows in the distance at an insane speed. Silver Moon and his remaining men, who suddenly found themselves being attacked by their opponents with such ferocity, subconsciously began edging away from their crazed aggressors. The sound of objects sailing through the air echoed about as Royal God Call's arrows flew toward the enemies incessantly. "Watch where you're firing!" Gufei bellowed in frustration. Having dodged 2 arrows consecutively, he got this feeling that Royal God Call was treating him as a target as well. Royal God Call merely continued shooting at his targets like a madman, spraying arrows all over the place. And for every 10 arrows he fired off, almost half of them would fly toward Gufei. "I'll kill you." Gufei could no longer bear it and charged toward Royal God Call. The bratty archer turned tail and ran, shouting, "Sword Demon and Wounds, I'll leave the rest to you." Royal God Call knew that Gufei's current limit was teleporting himself in a 5-meter radius, so he made sure to be at least that far away from the latter, essentially rendering the skill useless. Gufei was left with no choice but to chase after him, knowing full well that he would only be harassed by the latter if he did not do so. Helpless, Gufei sought young Master Han's help. "Hey, do something about this. We shouldn't be fooling around during an important fight like this." Young Master Han nodded his head. "I originally did not plan to interfere, but since you asked." Pausing for effect, he said sternly to Gufei, "You have been hogging all the fun all this while, you know. Go to a corner and rest up. Give everyone here some chance to enjoy themselves." "Ah!" Gufei was stunned into silence. Sword Demon and War Without Wounds had already begun exchanging blows with the enemies. War Without Wounds unleashed his ultimate move, Cyclone, from the get-go, and the Guardian facing him held the large shield to his front in response. The sound of clashing metal rang across the PvP field. This was the first time that someone had actually dared to face Cyclone forcefully. Sparks flew as War Without Wounds' 2 claymores grinded against the large shield, making him seem like a welder who was hard at work. As for Sword Demon, he did not manage to find an opportunity to attack the enemies after swiftly making his way around them. The enemies were obviously veterans at PvPing, and their current triangular formation with Silver Moon at its core was a testament to this fact, as it provided Sword Demon no exploitable gap to initiate a sneak attack on them. A thief like him could not clash head-on with a warrior, as he would just be courting death if he did so given his lower HP and defense. As such, Sword Demon settled for fighting a less risky opponent, the Guardian that had high defense but slightly weak offense. Fortunately for him, Silver Moon mercenary group's lack of a priest would make his opponent's every drop of HP irrecoverable for the remainder of this PvP match. Viciously plunging his frost memories toward the Guardian's large shield, Sword Demon lucked out as his one stab broke the dagger's fatal blow. Fatal blow was the bane to any high defense and high HP job class's existence, as it ignored defense entirely and induced damage based off a percentage of the target's HP. In other words, the larger the target's HP pool, the greater the damage Fatal Blow would induce. Sword Demon's Frost Memories had a 30% chance of proxing Fatal Blow with a 30% fatality rate. This rather frightening trait was precisely why Sword Demon continued to wield the dagger despite its attack power being meager by the current standards. In an instant, 30% of the Guardian's HP was shaved off by that fatal blow, causing him to break out in cold sweat. Ever since he had started using Bulwark of Imprisonment, not one player had been able to inflict such a high damage on him at once. He knew that it was accomplished with Fatal Blow, but this was still the first time he had seen a 30% fatality rate. That one strike greatly drummed up Sword Demon's morale, and his subsequent thrusts became even more ferocious. Although Fatal Blow was terrifying, it could not actually cause death. With the damage being based off on the target's current HP pool and the calculation being done in percentage, Fatal Blow would logically never see its recipient's HP reach zero. However, Sword Demon could only depend on this 30% proc rate of Fatal Blow to deal damage on the Guardian, as his Frost Memory's basic attack power could not penetrate the enemy's high defense. While they had their fair share of fun, Sword Demon and War Without Wounds grew suspicious when they noticed that the two guardians were the only ones doing the defending while Silver Moon and the remaining warrior did not even try to attack them. Something seemed wrong, so War Without Wounds conveyed to Sword Demon through eye contact his intention to jointly attack the last remaining warrior first. Since the two guardians and the Knight Silver Moon were probably defending this only warrior for a purpose, Sword Demon got his message, and both attempted to flank the sides of the enemy's triangular formation. Their intention was easily seen through by their enemies, though, and the four men skillfully changed their positions in response to Sword Demon and War Without Wounds' movement around them. They continued to dance to this music until Silver Moon suddenly uttered something from within the formation while raising his King's Blade. In the next moment, his three companions had received Blessing of Health. Blessing of Health would regenerate a bit of its recipient's HP every 5 seconds. While 5 seconds would usually be seen as a long time in a fast-paced fight, these guardians would have no trouble lasting for 5 seconds with their high defense. Silver Moon's muttering did not stop there, though, and pure white light soon fell on the two guardians, looking similar to a priest's heal. Sword Demon and the rest felt stunned. Holy Healing. This was the first skill that a knight who had chosen to be a holy knight during the job class advancement would learn. Just like the priest's heal, this skill could instantly recover a player's HP. Sword Demon and War Without Wounds felt very despondent. Silver Moon's skill put a damper on their plan to kill the enemies by chipping off their HP bit by bit. At the end of the day, the two guardians still had high physical defense. Just as the two were helplessly thinking of a new way to deal with their opponents, their enemies suddenly turned their defense into offense, with the two guardians activating charge and slamming their shields into their respective targets. The damage they inflicted was not substantial, but charge had the chance of applying the dizzy status effect. War Without Wounds was unluckily afflicted by this, rendering him temporarily immobile. The enemies promptly surrounded him. As for Sword Demon, although he fortunately did not get afflicted by that effect, he was nevertheless thrown off for quite a distance by that shield slam. Look, young Master Han said to Brother Assist. They were staunchly defending just then so that Silver Moon could recover his mana. This just proves that that op skill of his really depletes his mana as he channels it. He has actually used up all his mana a while ago. Brother Assist vigorously nodded his head as he yelled to War Without Wounds, "How much damage did the charge inflict on you just now? How much damage, my ass? Come and help me already." War Without Wounds howled as he was currently being surrounded by 4 men. The two guardians did not have much attack power, but they effectively trapped War Without Wounds by pressing their shields firmly against War Without Wounds on his left and right sides. Meanwhile, Silver Moon and the other warrior started stabbing him in a frenzy while standing on his front and back. Brother Assist's eyes shone brightly as he roared, "How much is that sword's damage? Quickly write it down." He intended to use this chance to find out the attack power of Silver Moon's King's Blade. What a bunch of degenerates! War Without Wounds moaned to the sky in grief. "Keep in mind that your death must not be in vain." Brother Assist yelled, "Gather as much data as you can." Although Brother Assist said this, not one of them would actually let War Without Wounds die just like this. All stopped what they were doing as they scrambled to aid him. Young Master Han swiftly tossed heal onto him. Brother Assist bolstered his defense with Blessing of Resilience, and Sword Demon activated Fleetfoot while holding a baton to get closer to those 4 encircling him. Even the squabbling Gufei and Royal God Call swung by to give him a helping hand. Royal God Call shot off arrows to the enemies, while Gufei tossed Fireball over. "Just a little bit more, guys." Silver Moon and his gang were gritting their teeth at the moment, hoping to kill off War Without Wounds before his assistants arrived. However, War Without Wounds' defense was no joke either, and there was simply not enough time for them to kill him off when there were only 2 of them assaulting him. Seeing their inefficiency to quickly do the deed, Silver Moon hollered at his men, "Disperse." The men quickly separated without a complaint. The 2 guardians retreated and Silver Moon sidestepped as he granted Blessing of Strength on the warrior. The warrior growlingly lowered his claymore to his side, preparing to use Cyclone on War Without Wounds. The Cyclone skill was far more efficient than their basic attacks put together, so whether they could kill War Without Wounds depended on this entirely. Everything happened so swiftly that War Without Wounds had no time to react, and right when these 4 hopeful men were hoping that they could score their first kill of the day, The space behind War Without Wounds suddenly distorted and shattered. Fuck! Silvermoon thundered. He had seen this scene many times today, and it had given him a headache every time. Gufei blinked himself right behind War Without Wounds, his sword already swinging with twin incineration and homing in on the warrior's body. He managed to insta-kill the warrior before the latter could even begin the process for Cyclone. This warrior had evidently focused on a strength build, so his HP was not particularly high. Given how the physical defense of warriors did not protect them from spells, the warrior immediately died with flames scorching his body. Miles. Now that's what I call a real brother. War Without Wounds choked with emotions. What nonsense are you talking about? I merely saved you because we won't be attaining a perfect score if you die, which in turn will decrease our earnings of gold coins and experience points by quite a lot, Gufei bluntly said, putting emphasis on gold coins. Gufei was sorely in need of money right now. He had incurred a debt of 1,800 gold coins, after all. Seeing that War Without Wounds had been saved, Brother Assist quickly asked, "What's the number? Did you write it down or not?" War Without Wounds was in tears right now. Is there even anyone who cares for my well-being? As he said that, Royal God Call's voice came over, gazing on War Without Wounds wistfully. Why didn't you die? What a waste. Gufei inclined his head. See? At least someone cares if you're dead or alive. War Without Wounds bawled his eyes out. Silvermoon mercenary group only had 3 men left. With the death of their sole offensive force, the remaining 3 were clueless on what they should do next. Meanwhile, the men of Young Master's elite had finally settled down after all those bickering. Both sides lined themselves up across one another, staring one another down. Brother Assist was crestfallen upon learning that not one piece of data had been collected before. His situation was akin to a gamer who had fought a monster that dropped a top-grade equipment, only for him to fail at picking it up. With no one moving or saying a word, Brother Assist fearlessly taunted the 2 guardians, "I dare you to charge at me." Silvermoon bewilderedly stared at him, thinking that he had gone mad. Even now, he still did not notice that Brother Assist and the lot were actually trying to discover the stats of his King's Blade. Silvermoon's gaze only emboldened Brother Assist further. "What are you looking at? Come and slay me if you've got the balls." The calm and collected sword demon dragged Brother Assist to the side. "I've taken note of the damage from their charge." Brother Assist was overjoyed, and he happily requested the damage output data from Sword Demon. This was the last figure he needed to complete his calculation regarding Silvermoon's skill. Noting down the figure in his little booklet, Brother Assist finally revealed a sated smile as he completed his calculations. "Looks like it bolsters their stats, such as speed and HP, by around 15% all at once." "That's alright. But the skill's cooldown time is about 10 minutes. And it can only be channeled for 25 seconds, so it can only provide a sudden burst in attack," Young Master Han added. "Why do I feel like it's not just 25 seconds back in Y City? It seems longer than." Royal God Call said. The few of them continued to chat and discuss this matter, totally disregarding the 3 enemies before them as if they were just part of the scenery. Silvermoon felt shocked upon learning that his opponents had managed to uncover every detail of his king's command skill. At this time, Gufei stepped forward with a smile on his lips. "Let them keep talking, and let's continue where we left off." Silvermoon carefully gazed at the 6 men before him, smiling in returning. "No need. We've lost." With that, he nodded toward his 2 men and the 3 of them disappeared in flashes of white light. "What happened?" Gufei asked, baffled. "They forfeited," Young Master Han replied passively. "What a pity." Gufei sighed, "I've only managed to slice him once." "You will get your chance in the future," Young Master Han said. "That look he gave us before disappearing is filled with hatred, so it's only a matter of time before he settles the score with us for that grudge in Y City and for our action that ruined his plan today." "Oh, how I await that day." "Then," Gufei said wistfully. Chapter 198, Call for Merit. In the end, the match with Silvermoon Mercenary Group was one that was thrilling yet not life-threatening, and Gufei's repeated usage of Blink was enough to turn Silvermoon and his gang into a mess. If Gufei were a normal mage, Blink would be something easy to deal with. Unfortunately for his past and would-be opponents, Gu Fei had been using his spells quite differently from the average mages in Parallel World. His use of Blink to instantly appear before his targets to cleave them in halves was akin to a warrior gaining access to a teleportation skill, a fact that many found disconcerting. When the system finished tallying the score of Young Masters Elite for this round of match and teleported the 6 out of the PvP arena, the first individuals they saw were actually Silver Moon and his mercenaries. Good fight. Seeing the 6 men appear, Silver Moon swiftly flashed them a broad grin. The 6 were quite surprised by this. Honestly speaking, most competitors would still exchange a few words outside the PvP arenas after concluding their respective matches. After all, the tournaments were something that the game company had organized, so no vendetta existed between parties. Sometimes, even goodwill would be generated from these exchanges. Losing only meant that their opponents were skilled individuals, so most players would be more than happy to befriend such talented people. However, young Master Han reminded everyone that Silver Moon was no stranger to Young Masters Elite since they had clashed with him before in Y City. Not to mention that they had just eliminated his mercenary group just now, and he might probably recognize a few familiar faces. With everything that had happened, the 6 men were merely hoping that he would not ambush them once they exited the PvP arena. Who would have guessed that he would warmly greet them? Instead, Silver Moon wore a fawning expression on his face as he shook hands with the 6 men. "How should I address you guys?" Excluding Gu Fei, whom he already knew, Silver Moon proceeded to ask the rest for their IGNs. Given that these men had well-known names in the online gaming community, Silver Moon could not help but exclaim, "I've always been a fan." Upon hearing their IGNs, this was done until he got to Young Master Han. Silver Moon inclined his head to think for quite some time, but he could not recall the name as anyone of prominence, eventually treating him as a newly minted expert like Gu Fei. To think Yanjuan City has congregated so many epic level players. Silver Moon could not help but sigh in awe. Epic level. A few of these experts fell 10 feet taller upon hearing such a wonderful praise. Royal God calls expert usage of Mage, War Without Wound skills as a warrior, further assists gaming knowledge, Sword Demon's kingly temperament. Silver Moon continued to stroke these experts' ego one by one for quite some time by praising them for the aspects that these individuals were famous for in past MMOs. He launched his offensive using candied words and rich praises. Gu Fei saw how elated Royal God Call, War Without Wounds, and even Brother Assist were upon being placed up high on a pedestal. Only Sword Demon lived up to his name as a seasoned veteran, showing resilience to Silver Moon's sycophantic and ass-kissing behavior. Because Silver Moon did not know about young Master Han's original identity, he could only compliment his physical appearance. "This bro here is too good looking." "I know," young Master Han lightly answered, immediately causing Silver Moon to feel stunned for a good 3 seconds. He firmly shut his mouth to prevent himself from blurting this out, too shameless. And lastly, he looked toward Gu Fei. Unlike the others whom he had complimented with excessive flattery, Silver Moon merely said this, "Bro, you're very strong." Gu Fei humbly smiled. When Silver Moon properly greeted all, he showed reluctance to part as he bade them farewell. "We're all mercenaries here, so I hope we get a chance to work together in the future." Silver Moon was indeed an expert at flattering others. His flattery was filled with technical and in-depth gaming terms, and Gu Fei did not even know about some of the things that Silver Moon had mentioned. But seeing Royal God Call and War Without Wounds' ecstatic reaction, he knew that Silver Moon's praises had touched on the truth. Following this, they headed to Ray's Bar to celebrate their success at making it through another round. As for Royal God Call and War Without Wounds, the two insisted that they were just pretending moments ago and openly expressed their disdain towards Silver Moon now. HMPH. "That trash is not even in my sight," Royal God Call disdained as he fixed his gaze straight ahead. "It seems like he is no longer taking that matter in Y City to heart." "If that's the case, then that man is rather magnanimous," Brother Assist said. Young Master Han laughed coldly. "Magnanimous? It's more like he's a shrewd person. He tried to entrap us many times in today's match, but Miles fortunately has the blink skill. Otherwise, the match might not have ended well for us." "Entrap us? How so?" Royal God Call asked. "By luring us into engaging them in melee," young Master Han replied, adding, "attacking them from afar was useless, as their defense was too strong. That's why I said it was a situation where you know you are at a disadvantage, but you still have to purposely fall for their trap. TSK. We could have dragged the match on to see who had more patience, Royal God Call said. I don't really mind. Young Master Han stretched himself languidly. It's just that someone might grow impatient and start acting recklessly once he found out that dragging the match would cause him to be late for the upcoming guild match at 9 p.m. Ah! Royal Godcall was stunned, instantly remembering that he still had a guild match to participate later. And if we really dragged on for another 2 or 3 hours, there was still somebody else who might grow anxious since he only stays online for a short time every day. Young Master Han gazed over at Gu Fei. That's why I hurried to kill them all. Gu Fei clenched his fists. Everyone grew dispirited once he said this. Almost all the enemies this match were handily defeated by Gu Fei. Even if they provided assistance from the sidelines, it was still nothing in comparison to Gu Fei's achievements. Royal God Call cried out in agony when he saw Sword Demon taking out the booklet for the record of their contributions. Actually, the biggest harvest we have gained from this match is that we managed to find out everything about Silver Moon's skill. Don't you all think so? Young Master Han remarked. The others immediately agreed that the most important contribution for this match was information collection, as they demanded for it to be assigned high points. It was through my strategic planning that let us uncover the secret behind Silver Moon's skill. Give me some points for that. Young Master Han told Sword Demon. That was quite the complicated equation I had to calculate. I should get more points for that. Brother Assist patted Sword Demon. I bore that attack to get the data needed to make the calculation. War Without Wounds reported his contribution, as well. Sword Demon nodded his head. I got attacked to gather that bit of data, too. Me? What about me? Royal God Call was flustered. In that moment, he could not think of what he had contributed in this last match. You lent me the booklet and quill I used. Brother Assist waved that booklet he had used to do the calculation. That's right. Royal God Call's agony turned into joy. Miles did not even contribute a bit to this. He. Everyone gloatingly regarded Gu Fei. Gu Fei originally did not wish to squabble for the contribution points with the others, as unlike them, he was not very particular about this small stuff in a game. But seeing their gloating expression, Gu Fei knew that they were deliberately making things bad for him and that he should not let them succeed. So he asked, I will be awarded many points if I manage to get concrete information about that skill, right? Of course. You will get lots of points for that, too. Royal God Call automatically answered. Give me a quill and paper. Gu Fei reached out his hand. What for? I have information, Gu Fei replied. Everyone was suspicious. Brother Assist tore out a page from the booklet and passed it to Gu Fei along with a quill. Gu Fei huddled over the table and began writing on the paper. When he was done, he lifted the paper up. This is a 100% accurate and detailed report. All regarded Gu Fei suspiciously as they took the paper from him. King's Blade additional skill, activates the battlefield or King's Command. Effect, party members within the area of effect will have all their stats increased by 15%. Consumes 4% of mana every second it remains active. Skill cooldown time, 10 minutes. Not only did Gu Fei state the skill description, he even wrote down the figures for basic attack of King's Blade as well as the additional +8 to all stats straight of it. You've fabricated something quite believable, Royal God Call scoffed at it. It's real, Gu Fei slightly smiled. How do you know all this, then? Royal God Call asked. I asked Vast Lushness about it, Gu Fei replied. They all froze on the spot. Brother Assist, who was doing the math in his head, almost exploded from anguish and he weakly slumped down on the sofa. How many points will I get for this? Gu Fei asked Sword Demon. Sword Demon sympathetically glanced at the others who had previously put their lives on the line for this information as he replied, most of the points will go to you. Sword Demon, whose side are you on? Royal God Call demanded in his frustration. Are you complaining to the person who's keeping track of your contributions? That's very bold of you, Sword Demon lightly chided. He was well versed in all sorts of rules and regulations in online games, so he naturally was not just a goody two shoes. Ha ha ha. Sword Demon big bro, do you have enough flicker? How about another one on me? Royal God Call backtracked. Sword Demon waved him off. He then shredded the page with the record for today's match and began writing anew. Gu Fei had killed the most, if not all, and had also provided the most detailed information, so almost 75% of the contribution points for this match would go to him. All emerged pale-faced when they came around to look. Dear students, you will only end up hurting yourself when you hurt others. Remember this well. I'm taking my leave now. Gu Fei stood up and made his way out of the room. Hey, wait. Recalling something, Brother Assist hurriedly chased after the departing Gu Fei. What's the matter? Gu Fei appeared before Brother Assist with a swish, giving the latter a fright. There's something I need your help for once today's guild match is over. Are you going offline now? Brother Assist asked. It's still early so I won't go offline yet. What's up? Brother Assist patted him on the arm, saying, I'll tell you when the time comes. You do your thing first. Everyone in the room stared at Brother Assist after Gu Fei left. Brother Assist's smile right now was particularly wretched. Our business is doing well. We will have quite a few clienteles coming tonight to negotiate. Alright, let's properly earn a pile of money from him as revenge. Royal God Call bellowed. Chapter 199, Gu Fei's Meet and Greet. The prelude. Royal God Call was the only member of Young Master's elite that still had to participate in the Guild vs Guild tournament after the mercenary PvP tournament. With Gu Fei's departure, Brother Assist started making preparations at Ray's bar. Royal God Call was afraid to be left out, so he repeatedly told the others to wait for his return before beginning the event. Don't worry, we will wait for you. Brother Assist thumped his chest. Only after he said this did Royal God Call feel assured enough to take his leave and participate in the Guild vs Guild tournament. Brother Assist had long made plans for this business venture and had even roped in the bar owner, Ray. At Ray's arrangement, the left side of the bar was assigned to the tavern patrons, whereas the right was assigned to the clients coming over tonight. Brother Assist tasked War Without Wounds with arranging the benches and tables and tidying up the space until it resembled a press conference venue. The present patrons in the bar naturally became curious of all these activities and inquired about the matter, but Brother Assist merely smiled mysteriously at them. War Without Wounds, who had been doing all the hard work of rearranging the furniture to create the desired scene, asked, must we make it into such a big deal? This is a marketing strategy, Brother Assist replied. Only when you put value to your product that you'll be able to create a desire in others to buy it. Young Master Han poked his head out of their room while holding a glass of liquor and said, marketing? More like you're playing a trick, making it so grand. Are you trying to tease Miles to death or get him to kill us all? That's right. War Without Wounds agreed. You should have just arranged for them to meet Miles individually. Gathering so many people together, let alone Miles, even the clients will feel displeased. Everyone will definitely like it more if they can meet Miles singly, but how are we gonna fool Miles into doing that? I think it's only possible to trick Miles this one time, so we might as well reveal his identity as 27,149 to others in one go, Brother Assist reasoned. You better be careful. Then, you're currently playing with fire by negotiating with almost all the major forces here in Yunjuan City. All it takes is for a handful of them to feel dissatisfied by your actions and your peaceful days in this city are as good as over, young Master Han cautioned. Don't worry. Brother Assist smiled craftily, I've already spoken to them. In a way, making a grand gathering like this is to let the others understand that it isn't easy to meet this mysterious mage of ours, so they'll be more than happy to part with their money once they realize that it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How much are you charging them? Young Master Han asked. Just 100 gold coins per person. It's pretty cheap, eh? Brother Assist replied. Indeed, 100 gold coins is just loose change to these influential players. Young Master Han nodded his head. So how much can we earn from this whole thing? This was actually what War Without Wounds was most concerned about. Ha ha. Brother Assist laughed heartily. 122 guilds and 27 mercenary groups have expressed their interest in this. How much do you think that gives us? 14,900 gold coins. War Without Wounds exclaimed. You've attracted that many people this soon? Your efficiency is pretty high. Young Master Han commended. It's all thanks to Carouse and Cloudherder causing so much ruckus in these past 2 days. Their flyers littering the streets really helped us by quite a lot. Brother Assist chuckled softly. Then, why today? Wouldn't we earn more if we waited for a few more days? Young Master Han asked. Now is the time. Carouses and Cloud Herders advertisement has successfully piqued everyone's curiosity. When this moment of interest passes, I'm certain many people will just look on in this. This kind of business is a one-time thing. How much we can earn out of this is all that matters. Let's not fuss over how much more we can earn by biding our time, otherwise, we risk losing the entire pot. Brother Assist answered. As young Master Han and Brother Assist continued to debate over the matter, War Without Wounds counted how much they could earn with his fingers. So how much will I get from that 14,900 gold coins? War Without Wounds calculated it in his mind as he threw a sidelong glance at Sword Demon. This is a windfall gifted by the heavens. Are you sure you're not gonna join us? Sword Demon chuckled. Count me out of this. I'm leaving now. I won't be sending you off, then. War Without Wounds absolutely did not plan to persuade him otherwise. One less person involved meant one less portion to share the pot with, meaning, he could take more for himself. This was the simple thought he had. Hearing such a large sum involved, he even wished that everyone had no part in this and that he had organized the matter alone. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel grateful that Brother Assist had actually involved them in this big venture. Accomplishing this task evidently did not require fighting, so Brother Assist only needed himself to do this. To have involved us in this, what a brother he is. War Without Wounds was in awe of how generous Brother Assist was. He then decided to send Royal God Call this message. Oi, are you still coming? We're about to begin. We ain't got the time to wait for you. What? It's only been 5 minutes and you guys are already starting. You're all doing this intentionally. Royal God Call felt alarmed as he was still fighting in the guild match. Can't be helped. Customer is always right. Some things are just out of our control. War Without Wounds continued to spout nonsense. His goal was really to get Royal God Call so flustered that the latter would yell out, "Fine, do what you guys want, then I'm out." Unfortunately for him, the run to Royal God Call was not that trash. He calmly pondered the pros and cons of the matter and finally decided to abandon the guild versus guild tournament. Using the excuse that he needed to visit the latrine due to a bout of diarrhea, he volunteered to be killed off. Once he was out of the PvP arena, he sprinted toward Ray's bar. When Royal God Call entered the establishment, he immediately saw that the left side was filled with people while the right side was empty save for Brother Assist and young Master Han who were drinking and chatting together. The two were very surprised to see him be back at the bar this fast. Brother Assist looked at the time. Done so soon? Has Traversing Forces gotten that strong? I recall that you guys are matched up against a level 4 guild today. Surely, it shouldn't have been that quick? Royal God Call spotted War Without Wounds laughing uproariously in his peripheral view. Knowing that he had been had, Royal God Call furiously fired off arrows at War Without Wounds. I'm not healing either of you. Young Master Han told the two firmly. The two promptly did not go overboard with their attacks in fear of accidentally killing the other. Although they were hoping for the other to die, they did not want to be the killer themselves. They were merely hoping that the other would get surrounded by monsters and killed off, get ambushed to death by random players, or accidentally die from friendly fire. Royal God Call shelved his anger for the moment as he looked around to see how the bar was arranged, asking just like the clueless players over by the left side. Just what's going on? We're gathering all of the clients for one meet and greet, Brother Assist answered, turning to War Without Wounds after. You have a very important job, and that is to keep an eye on Miles and make sure he doesn't escape. Once he realizes that something is off and tries to leave, it's your duty to hold him down even if he kills you. Now that we're at this point, we will have to ignore his wishes on this matter. War Without Wounds' expression darkened. That's a very dangerous task. Brother Assist nodded his head solemnly. Don't worry. You'll properly be compensated for this, monetary-wise. If I'm really killed, no amount of money will make up for it. Whenever there's an opportunity to earn a large sum, you guys must keep in mind that a certain amount of risk is always involved, Brother Assist said. Why do I feel that all the danger involved in this is placed on my shoulders? War Without Wounds wailed. You're the only one with strength capable of holding Miles down. As a precaution, we've gathered some equipment with magic defense for you to wear. If that ever happens, I'll grant you Blessing of Vitality, while young master will be ready to bestow heal on you. Relax. Brother Assist reassured. With that said, the rest handed over their magic defense equipment to Warrior Without Wounds. Temporarily taking off his heavy armor as well as his accessories, he put on the set of mismatched trinkets and gear. The equipment that everyone had provided him was surprisingly form-fitting, so it tightly hugged Warrior Without Wounds' brawny frame, giving birth to the most unique warrior anyone could ever lay eyes on. This is a stain to my very existence. Warrior Without Wounds lowered his head in absolute shame. His feeling toward the warrior job class was similar to Royal Godcall's love for the mage job class. Such an oddly dressed warrior was something that he could not accept. What was worse was the fact that the said warrior was him. Just hang in there. Safety should be your first priority, Brother Assist said solemnly, trying his best to stifle his laughter. The four men then proceeded to go over the particulars of today's operation, while Boss Ray maintained order in the pub. When it was time for the operation to commence, Brother Assist mumbled to himself, "People should be arriving now." Just as he finished muttering this, someone kicked in the door of Ray's bar open. "Motherfucker, I finally found the place. I'm on the verge of dying just from searching for this place." Brother Assist and the Law turned their heads over and were stunned. Three men entered the bar together. The one at the head was the present big boss of Y City and was rumored to be the head of the 10 Guild Alliance, Dusky Cloud. Dusky Cloud also spotted the four men and he cheerfully approached them. "I knew that you guys are behind this. Pretty shrewd of you guys to think of such a method to earn money." Placing his hand inside his pocket, he tossed a coin pouch on the table. "I heard it's 100 gold coins. There you go. You can count the content for yourselves." He wrung his hands as he said this, casually finding a seat over by a corner as he looked all around. "I've long wanted to get to know this eminent bro." "So where is he? Is he coming soon?" Brother Assist and the rest were still in a daze, not one of them moving to the coin pouch on the table. Royal Godcall recovered himself first and looked over to Brother Assist. "Damn, to think that this matter has even spread outside of the city." Brother Assist was evidently very surprised. "Those who are coming have contacted me first, yet this lot actually ran all the way over without saying a word to me. This means that they may not be the only one like that," young Master Han proffered. "Ah, looks like we won't just earn 14,900 gold coins. No wait, it should be 15,000 gold coins now," Warrior Without Wounds said as he stared at the coin pouch on the table with greed-filled eyes. Chapter 200, Clients from all over having the ability to insta-kill a bunch of men with a raise of his hand. Such an indomitable mage was truly a rare specimen. Dusky Cloud and his gang had long wanted to get in touch with a masked mage that had helped them out greatly in the war against past deeds in Y City. So when they saw on the forums that an opportunity to get acquainted with the mysterious mage was present, they hurriedly traveled from Y City to Yunjuan City. "You guys have traveled so far. Still, don't you have to participate in the PvP tournament in your own city?" Brother Assist tried to break the ice with the three new arrivals who had journeyed for 3 hours from Y City to Yunjuan City just to meet Gufei. Dusky Cloud laughed boisterously. "With our mercenary group and guild's strength, losing the three of us won't affect the outcome of the matches in the least." He swept his gaze over the empty seats in the bar. "You've arranged for such a big event. I suppose a lot of people will be attending this?" Brother Assist nodded his head. Dusky Cloud once more gazed at everyone before him and asked, "Where's Brother Sword Demon? Why don't I see him?" Sword Demon had fought side by side with them back in Y City, so they were more familiar with him. "He has something on, so he won't be coming," Brother Assist fibbed. "It's rare for me to come by for a visit. We should all come together and have a drink or two once this is over," Dusky Cloud declared. Young Master Han was obviously the most thrilled over his suggestion to drink, but he had a slight altercation with Dusky Cloud in Y City. Thinking that it was important to choose his drinking partners as well, young Master Han kept quiet about his suggestion when he would usually be approving with 2 thumbs up. The rest of them were quite indifferent to Dusky Cloud's suggestion, As the various guild leaders and mercenary group leaders of Yunjuan City started trickling in the bar, Brother Assist hurriedly stood up from his seat and began welcoming each new arrival. Welcoming the clients was actually only secondary, and his main purpose was really to collect the 100 gold coins fee from the guests as he ushered them to their seats. Not everyone responded similarly when this happened. Some unhesitatingly handed over their coin pouches, while others fussed about this being an elaborate scam and expressed their wish to part with their coins only when they saw the subject in question. Some attempted to curry favor from him when they saw this by handing over their coin pouches and loudly saying, "I believe you just from the fact that you are Brother Assist." Young Master Han only realized now that the success of this business venture was not just due to carouses and cloud herders' 2 days of madness, but also due to Brother Assist's fame as an information expert. Truly, Brother Assist's influence on the forums was not something to scoff at. Brother Assist patiently coaxed those who were still unwilling to pay up front. "You are all leaders or influential figures in our city. How am I going to live peacefully in this city from here onward if this is truly an attempt to scam you all out of your money?" Some found his explanation sound and happily handed over their coin pouches, yet a few were still unwilling to do so. Brother Assist could not help but wonder if those refusing to pay were the real scammers who tried to find out who the mysterious mage was for free. Instead, he was the seller who should be collecting the entrance fees from the attendees, but he would truly have no choice if any of them chose not to fork out their money after the conference was over. It was only 100 gold coins, after all. Gathering reinforcement just to get away from paying this paltry sum would be an awkward proposition to pose to their friends. It would also be very demeaning to boot. But what if you do meet someone like that? Young Master Han, who had predicted such a situation, asked Brother Assist this earlier. "I guess we can just ask them to leave," was Brother Assist's answer. At this moment, Brother Assist calmly said to the players who were unwilling to pay the fee, "Guys, the rule here is for you to pay the fee first before meeting the mage. Many other leaders have already paid the fee. Won't it be unfair to them if you guys refuse to do the same? If you still insist on not paying up, then please excuse yourselves." He politely indicated the door. Someone felt slighted by this. Slapping the table, he stood up and began shouting at Brother Assist. He also attempted to incite the other leaders by claiming how illogical it was for him to collect the fee before even showing them the product in question, and that everyone should join up to protect their rights. "What if someone attempts to create uproar? What will you do?" Young Master Han had also predicted such men to turn up for this meeting. "It would be dangerous if the price we set was 1,000 gold coins. Fortunately, the price we set is only 100 gold coins. Most leaders here are influential characters that would think nothing of this price. Only those insignificant shrimps would actually create a scene for this bit of money, so there's nothing to worry about," Brother Assist answered. The other leaders barely reacted to this cry of solidarity from the shrimp, causing Brother Assist to smile in relief. The shrimp is filled with resentment and was about to go into a full-on tirade when someone suddenly stood up and banged the table. Just as the shrimp was feeling gratified that his words had finally affected someone in the crowd, the man pointed straight at him and cursed, "Fuck, you're noisy. Who are you, anyway? If you're unwilling to pay the fee, then get the fuck out." "Boss Innocent, please don't say it like that. You see, I'm just trying to." The shrimp was just some unknown player, while the man who had stood up was a leader that everyone knew and recognized. The man was someone that even the shrimp knew about. Unfortunately for the shrimp, the man, as well as the other influential leaders, turned a deaf ear to his words, with some even glaring hatefully at him. It was just as what Brother Assist had said earlier. Would there be a way for anyone to live peacefully in Yunjuan City if they offended all these leaders? Seeing that the crowd was against him, the shrimp immediately shut his mouth and hurriedly slinked out of the bar. Out of all those men who had refused to pay the fee up front, 2 left immediately, while the rest finally forked out the 100 gold coins and stayed. Although this was but a small episode, it helped reduce the amount of work for Brother Assist from here on out. Any players that came afterward and showed reluctance to pay the 100 gold coins up front received a stern glare from all the leaders present, allowing Brother Assist to swiftly collect the money from them. Of course, there were still the regular patrons who were hanging out inside the bar. Having wised up to the fact that they had just spent money just to catch a glimpse of this mysterious mage while these tavern patrons could do so for free, The leaders of different groups turned their glares toward these curious onlookers, as well. These onlookers more or less understood the reason behind the piercing stares after watching everything unfold for so long, so most of them began to leave the premise. There were 10 among these tavern patrons who had grown curious over this matter and had the money for the fee, so they expressed their intention to stay and paid Brother Assist 100 gold coins. This unexpected windfall made War Without Wounds, who was hiding in a corner, very happy that he could not stop his mouth from forming a wide grin. Why was he hiding in a corner? It was because he felt so embarrassed by his attire that he could not bring himself to stand in front of the crowd and be seen. After everything had settled, the entire raised bar had ended up becoming the stage for this conference. Everyone noisily rearranged the seats once more, making it more spacious and comfortable for all. No one else entered the bar after waiting for quite some time. Although it was still a while before the appointed time, all were already impatiently asking Brother Assist to start things early. Some people have yet to arrive. Brother Assist smiled. We will begin at the exact appointed time, so everyone please indulge in a drink or two. It's on me. All the leaders did not say much after having spent 100 gold coins just to sit here. They were not exactly thrilled at the prospect of getting a few free drinks since the amount they had just paid would surely cover the expenses of a few mere drinks. It was at this moment when the bar doors were pushed open from the outside and a fully geared warrior quietly stepped in. Everyone seated recognized this person as Black Index Finger, the group leader of the largest mercenary group in Yunjuan City. Black Index Finger did not say much. Casually looking for a spot to sit on once he entered, he placed a coin pouch on the table and allowed Brother Assist to pick it up whenever he liked. All started to whisper among themselves. Another person came right after, and it was someone whose name was recently gaining popularity in Yunjuan City, Silver Moon. He brought his 2 fellow mates along with him and warmly greeted Brother Assist and the others. To think we would meet so soon. You, too. Brother Assist was quite surprised. Silver Moon and Goofy were already acquainted, so there was no need for him to be here. Silver Moon did not say another word and just handed over the fee, getting himself a seat. 4 ladies of Amethyst Rebirth entered the bar together, too. They were July, Luo, Svelte Dancer, and Lai Lai. This group's appearance here made Brother Assist feel surreal. They were already familiar with Goofy, so what were they doing here? They casually paid up the 100 gold coins as Svelte Dancer glanced at Brother Assist. Let's see what you guys are up to this time. A mage, fighter, and thief entered the bar next. Before Brother Assist could say anything, Royal Godcall already leapt to his feet and addressed the newcomer. What are you doing here? Insta-killing mage. Naturally, I wish to get to know this person, the mage smilingly replied. Who are you? Brother Assist came forward and asked. Drifting, the person answered as he lifted a coin pouch to pay. The whole bar immediately burst into activity. Unlike Svelte Dancer's showy appearance to Yunjuan City due to her membership to Amethyst Rebirth, few people knew that the mage Drifting had come to the same city, as well. Our leader's blood immediately boiled. This sort of talent was also someone that they had prioritized as potential recruit. Some players looked at Drifting for a bit before they glanced at Svelte Dancer, wondering if there would be any sparks between the 2 players who were part of the 5 unyielding experts. Sadly, the 2 did not even deign to exchange words with each other. Instead, it was the quarrelsome Royal Godcall who pointed to Brother Assist Drifting's coin pouch as he shouted, "Take it! Quickly take it!" Inside, Royal Godcall was rejoicing. Let him spend 100 gold coins, only to discover that the person is someone he already knows. Ha ha ha. This is gonna be great. Once Drifting handed the coins over and took a seat, a beautiful lady entered the bar. Looking around, she muttered, I should have done this sooner. As she took out her coin pouch, someone from the crowd of leaders stood up and pointed at her. The lady awakened from her dream with shock. Oh, yeah. This sort of public method will never work for me. The lady then hurriedly made her escape, leaving Brother Assist, who was about to extend his hand to take her coins, at a total loss. In no time at all, the bar door was pushed open once more and the guild leader of Yunjuan City's largest guild, Oathless Sword, came in. Behind him were his 2 longtime partners, Youthful Reflection and Gale Force. HMPH. So many people. Oathless Sword had the air of a leader of a large guild. Walking in majestically and picking a seat, He tossed a coin pouch over to Brother Assist and asked, "Shall we begin?" Brother Assist caught it and nodded his head, "Please wait a moment." With that, he sent Goofy a message, "Come over to Ray's bar for a bit." "Oh, how coincidental. I am actually on my way there," Goofy said.